After a couple of preliminary evening meetings held at Toft People's Hall over the New Year period, on the 22nd of January 2013, Toft Historical Society members gathered at Brookside to carry out the first field walk over a snowy landscape in the company of archaeologists Dr. Susan Oosterhuizen and Dr. Alex Pryor of Cambridge University.
Susan, we think this is the site of Almshold Lane, which came down from the church, from up Harbuck Hill, and probably crossed the brook about here on its way down to Everston's of this road. So that potentially somewhere around here one could...
and they're the Armingers, and they Arrington and Ermine Street and Armingford 100 are all named from it. So it's very curious that it's attached to that lane coming in, which is then the boundary also between Kingston and Everston.
Yes.
The idea was to gather some initial impressions of the land immediately to the north and south of Bourne Brook, roughly in the area between Brookside and St Andrew's Church.
Because I can't remember, Corin's person said, I'm sure there was a little footbridge.
Where on
there was, over there. I've been told this, Keith told me.
When I first came, this was a fairly grotty bridge, wasn't it?
I don't remember there being a bridge here at all.
No.
I used to come down there and across there.
When I first came up, this was a sort of plank, because they said the real bridge had been there, and then that bridge had gone, and they'd been left with the plank.
With the knowledge and experience of the professional archaeologists, it was hoped that we could arrive at a plan for the location of trial pits to be dug in areas of high interest or where there was already known evidence of past settlement.
Well, actually, I was trying to remember whether that fence forms the back boundary of the properties on the other side. Can you remember from the air photo?
There was no
fence. On the other
fence.
side of the river.
No, there was no fence.
I know, but whether it's along...
Oh, I see, whether that's the line of it, yes.
John Horan was telling me that there are footings coming down in the grass down the bottom below the stable.
Oh, right.
No, I think just any artefacts really that are pre-1800 would be quite nice, wouldn't it?
So yeah, the historic environment records have got some information about some Roman, some skeletons that came up just across the brook here, and they found some Roman artefacts with them, which gives them a potential Roman date. And then there's other metal detected finds which are on the database as well, which show they come from the Roman period.
Clifford Tebbit, who farmed a lot of this, had a visiting metal detector gentleman in the early days of metal detectors actually, whom he found quite a respectable sort of metal detector, and he's got at least 2 big glass cases full of artefacts that came out, and Clifford would be the sort of person who would report, so it's quite possible that they're from him.
Okay.
But
There's an ancient way called Lot Way, which is on the direct line of that. It sits on Lot Way, as does Cumberton Church and Caldercote Church.
You're talking about Toft Church?
Toft Church, yeah, sorry.
Well, I think at this point it seems we've extended our...
we've now got about 10 pits we could dig, yes?
Well, I think in the first instance probably the geophysical part. And
I'd be a good field for it.
Yeah, well, those settlement remains would be, because they're very
this field here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I spoke to Jonathan Whitson on Friday, Saturday. He was quite happy for us to come round.
What about refining the site area? Do we do that later on, or?
If you want, you can try and line it up with the information that you already have. Otherwise, you kind of just pick an area and go for it.
Yes. Yes. We're talking about a fairly large area at the moment.
Yeah, well, once you're starting walking, it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of 10 transects of 20 metres or something like that. You should be easily be able to do.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then you could have it starting at the top of the hill and coming down towards the river.
Yeah. Good.
That's a good idea.
Well, I was just talking to Sue about the theory. There's a person in Bourne who has the theory that the river was much bigger and that supplies came up from Cambridge by some flat-bottom punt type vehicle, and which would mean that there was logic for there to be development here beside a much bigger river.
Up here it's very stiff.
After the field walk, the group adjourned for a summary discussion with Dr. Pryor and to plan the next stages of the project.
And most of the grave diggers know me and know that I'm interested in the archaeology inside of it as well. And they dug a grave and they came across a line of skulls, which were literally, the skulls were touching, 7 skulls in a row. I think it was 7. I think he told me. And he just literally clipped the head off them because it was a very strange. I mean, they have to have been lapped like this for the heads to be so close together.
Unless they were buried with the skulls and not as...
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. But either way, it was odd.
I mean, they do rebury things in church shells sometimes. You need to make more space.
Yes, yeah, but I don't think we've ever had that.
I think you can get to sort of 3 to 4 people to dig each one.
Yes. Yeah. Makes some discussion.
Hattie seems to think that we're going to be embarrassed by a number of people who all want to have a hand in it, so that's all too good, really. So can we label that as site number 1? And we're talking right about here, are we?
On the south side of the...
That's the south.
North side of the brook.
North side of the brook, because the south side of the brook is Everston.
Oh, I see. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Site 1.
So that's where
That's the one you thought the geophys would be best on,
sort
wasn't it?
of roughly sort of an area sort of like that, and sort of 10 metres across and sort of 20 metres down, or something of that sort of
ilk.
Did we want to do some investigation around the burial site? Where we thought this is where the brook bifurcates.
So I checked into what happens if we were to actually find human remains, and if we found them, we could uncover it and record it, and then we'd fill the pit back in again and leave them where they were. We wouldn't actually take them out the ground.
No.
So brickwork, or if there's pits or trenches that have been dug, so potentially the outline of post holes that might show walls and that kind of thing.
So a post hole would
post
show
holes,
up.
yeah.
So even if the wood's all gone, you'd still see the outline.
Yes, yeah. It will detect if because when you've got a post hole that's been filled in again, the moisture content of the soil involved as what's around it is different. If there's brickwork there, then that will show up very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about metal? Does that show metal too?
Only if it's a big.
The second, Susan drew our attention to the settlement on this side here. So do we want to include that in?
If doing 1 day of geophys, it ought to be possible to do one set in the morning and one set in the afternoon.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it is actually, because when you come up High Street, it rises up very steeply. If you look at the contours on the map, which they're on the 6-inch map, they do come round a lot tighter around there.
Do they? So it is.
I mean, what you'd find, I think, is probably evidence of the old houses that might be.
That we know, we have photographs of, we know are there.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd probably get below below them. If
Well,
we
usually
were...
what you did if you were going to plough it is dig up the first 2 or 3 layers of bricks and the rest were left, I suspect.
The most useful kind of stuff for the dating will come from the pottery scatters and bits of sherds. So it's, as long as we don't actually hit sort of like hard walls or sort of concrete surfaces and stuff, then it's actually putting a test pit in there would be a good idea. Because it will see how. Try and get a sort of a date for the earliest pottery that comes up there.
Yeah.
Right. Now, 2, 3. We haven't. Do we do the burial? We're not going to do the burial site. Do you think?
Probably best to steer clear of that, I think.
Because of the gravel. Yeah.
Yes, because if we dig down into what's been refilled from the gravel pits, then.
Get round that in there.
Around here.
Which way do you want it round?
Turn it round so that the light.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're coming up the road here. This first farm.
Come a wee bit out. Okay.
Which one is the recreation? Is this the recreation ground here? Or that one?
That one, I would
This
say.
one, I think. Yeah.
So the building things were found along here.
That's the black bull there.
Yes. And the platforms are about there, aren't they? Because the recreation ground doesn't go the full 1865 when there was a massive fire. There were 7 farms massed around here.
Okay.
And it ended up with only 4 at the end after the fire.
10 to 15 pits will give you the opportunity to get a good spatial sort of distribution of this, and of course you never know what you're going to find until you dig.
Yeah.
So.
At the end of the discussion, we all felt we had learnt a great deal and were now better equipped to move on to the next stage.